Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's go over what I personally see happening next, all that good stuff for Tesla. So as usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. I would appreciate it. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my kind of analysis and you want it real time, live every day, the market is trading on Tesla, and honestly sometimes other stocks. I've been sharing other setups as well with my members, Microsoft, Google, Oxy, which we actually exited. I actually exited like a day or two ago, but nonetheless Oxy, which is oil, right, essentially moving up. Sharing a lot of other stuff as well. Just $3 a month. Again, if you're interested, that link is down below for just $3 a month, or for $5 a month you can upgrade to the next tier where you get access to all of that still. But you also get access to NVIDIA daily updates as well if you're interested in that. But let's just jump into it. Tesla closing the day, yet again down, unfortunately, 3.35%, closing at we'll just say 240.5 roughly dollars per share, which compared to the market is going to be a pretty decent underperformance, compared to, say, QQQ, pretty much flat on the day. SPY down just a smidge, 0.2%, nothing too crazy, right? So Tesla once again underperforming, but again, it should be, no surprise, right? It should be no surprise. We talked about this yesterday. I said how after you gap down like that off of, in this case, earnings or delivery numbers, you don't just casually move back up. You don't just casually move all the way back up to like 250s, mid 250s to like 260. Like you can, but it's pretty rare from my experience that just happens. You get punished. Like you don't gap down that aggressively and without getting punished. And today is further punishment of that, right? Where the stock is getting punished now for essentially losing that momentum. And that's just kind of how things roll. So obviously we're down once again. Now, this is a level I've been screaming about for quite some time, right? Back when we were still trading well into the 250s, 260s even, right? I've been talking about how at the very least, remember I said this many times, you can go back to the videos. I said at bare minimum, I want to see like mid 240s. Like at the bare minimum, that's where I even remotely get excited. And I did start buying in the low 240s. But I bought even more once we entered 230s, right? And I said how 230s though, mid to high 230s, that's where I'm definitely getting interested now, right? And that's exactly what I'm doing. I said it and I'm doing it, right? Now, obviously I have a stop loss. I have all these things in mind. So, it's obviously, there's a risk here, right? Because this can just continue flushing downwards, in which case that's pretty bad. I don't think it will, at least not yet. I don't think we're out of the woodworks yet. I don't think Tesla's guaranteed to be safe, but I think if there's a spot for it to find some decent support, maybe not, straight away tomorrow, necessarily, but I think into next week for sure. I'd be pretty surprised, honestly, if we don't move back up. Honestly, it could be as early as tomorrow, but probably sometime next week going into the 10-10 event. I think that there's a good chance Tesla actually moves back up, but there's always a risk. So let's go over everything, right? So, this level down here, right, as we entered, the high 230s, all the way as low as about 235 roughly. Very important, right? 230. Like 3 to 235, very, 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 very important to hold that. Not only is that just essentially going to be a retest of this massive, resistance area that, essentially resisted us several times and smacked us back down pretty aggressively each time. But, we are going to be in theory now turning all the resistance that was pretty powerful into what in theory also should now be a pretty powerful support, right? That's just kind of how things really roll in the market. So that's going to be number one. That's a pretty major support. That's number one. Number two is, pretty much the bottom of the channel. Like I said, as long as Tesla remains in the channel, which it is right now, and again, it is a rising channel. So what do you do when you're in a rising channel? You rise. Obviously, it's not literally every single candle, but the overall trend is, up, right? As long as you're in the channel. We're still in it. And I said many times, if we come back to the bottom of the channel, which we're pretty damn close to it, we're not exactly there yet, but man, we're pretty close. That should be support, right? In theory, you always assume the channel top is the resistance and the channel bottom is support. That's just how it works. You just assume it's going to act accordingly. And so far it's been the resistance and so far it has been support. And and you pretty much assume it's going to keep happening until something says otherwise, such as we break above the channel or we break, below the channel, right? One of those two things at some point will happen. We're not going to zigzag in this tiny channel for the rest of, for the next 10 years, for instance, right? Obviously, that's not going to happen. We will either break out at some point or break down at some point. One of those things will happen. Like I said many times before, a higher chance to break down than up, in my opinion. But while we're within this channel, it doesn't mean that we can't technically still move back up to the opposite side of it, right? So just, you want to make these things kind of clear and, you want to understand these situations, right? And that's kind of where we're sitting at right now. So again, if there's a place for Tesla to start finding some decent support, start slowing down this bleeding and getting ready to turn things around, which I think it will personally, and I'll give you my rough area where I think it at the very least can turn around to. This rough area that we're at right now, give or take a few dollars, of course, pretty much is it. Like we're pretty much right there, right? So that's what I'm eyeballing right now moving forward. Now, again, before we go into my targets to the upside, I want to make this very clear. There is definitely a risk here. Why? So if you look strictly at the chart, I actually think this is a phenomenal risk versus reward scenario. Pretty much, again, like 240s, high 230s, mid even 230s, honestly, as long as it holds. Phenomenal risk versus reward opportunity, because technically, I mean, in theory, according to the trend, you can make its way back up, potentially even as high as into the 270s, in theory. But the reason I said only if you look at the chart, there's a reason I said that, because if you look at the indicators down here, well, things are looking a little bit less convincing. For instance, right, MACD, the daily MACD has officially crossed bearish. Now, again, it's like the tiniest little minuscule, you have to like zoom in with the microscope to see the cross. But I mean, it's still technically crossed. So, I mean, okay, that's a little bit concerning. This could be a false signal, kind of like what we had over here, a little false signal of a cross back here, and then it just went up anyways, right? So keep that in mind, right? This could be a false signal. And again, a MACD bearish crossover doesn't mean it has to crash. This is something people forget. Whether it's a bullish or bearish crossover on these kind of indicators, one thing people sometimes forget about is the fact that just because it's crossing, it doesn't mean it has to aggressively move down. Yeah, it can go down a little bit. Yeah, it can go, bleed down a little bit as well. But it doesn't mean it has to crash. It doesn't mean it has to like plummet to the, to Earth's core essentially. What it means is the fact that, to me at least, at the very least, the bullish momentum has slowed down, right? It just, to me, means that at the very least, we're probably not skyrocketing anytime soon. But it doesn't mean we have to just completely and utterly just continue crashing and crashing and crashing and crashing. Because all this can mean is the fact that, okay, maybe we're not going to 270 tomorrow or next week even, right? But it can still mean the fact that, we just consolidate. We just kind of go sideways for the next maybe week or so, honestly, right? And remember how I said, I think earlier this week, how I still have that theory that we pretty much go sideways around these general levels. Remember I said about 260, so about the 240s. I think we just go sideways because a lot of people are playing calls for the upside and a lot of people are playing puts for the downside. Bulls think it's going to 300, bears thinks it's crashing back to 200. And there's a lot of option activity in Tesla. I remember I said that, if you go back to I think Monday's video or something, maybe it was Tuesday. It was Monday or Tuesday, I think. And I had this theory. So far, so good. So far, so good. And again, my theory just pretty much means the fact that if Tesla just goes sideways between these levels, kind of like what it did back here, it's just going to eat away at the theta for all of these options, all of these contracts people are buying to the upside or to the downside. It's just going to eat away at them. Just the theta will just burn them alive, essentially, slowly but damn surely. So, and the dealers will they're going to be raking in the money, to say the least. So that's just kind of the way I'm looking at it, right? That's just kind of my personal perspective. But again, to make it simple, this area right here that we're in pretty much right now to about mid 230s, very crucial, very important. And if we break below this channel, Tesla is going to have not so good of an October and probably November. So you better damn hope that it doesn't break out of this channel to the southwards, is all I'm going to say. Now, to the upside, assuming Tesla does hold, right? Because, I do think it's getting ready to bounce here. As early as tomorrow, maybe, honestly. It's getting very, 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 very oversold on the 1 hour, right? Bands is getting oversold. MACD is extremely low. RSI is oversold. Finally, just slightly exited oversold territory. So maybe one more smidge to the downside, make a slight bullish divergence on the RSI, maybe, and then we move up, right? But either way, oversold. Stochastic oversold, getting ready to cross bullish as well on the 1 hour. The true strength indicators, same idea, right? They're still all, technically bearish, but they're getting very close to crossing back to bullish. And of course, you have the BX trender now officially making higher lows. So I think on the 1 hour in the short term to as early as tomorrow, Tesla is actually looking like it wants to move back up. Now the question, of course, is, well, okay, where does it move back up? Like, what's the target for this thing to move back up? Well, my main target personally is going to be at the very least probably close to 250s, maybe even 247.5. Why do I say that? Because Tesla's max pain for this week is 247.5. You can see right here, max pain 247.5. So usually what you see with these kind of situations is if the stock is pretty damn close to those levels, you can probably expect the market to bring it relatively close to that price. Again, in this case, 247.5. And that's kind of roughly what I expect for Tesla tomorrow. I really wouldn't be surprised if it moves back up somewhere to the mid-ish 240s tomorrow. That's kind of my main target. And for next week, my main target, I actually don't think Tesla, rather, I actually do think Tesla has a damn good chance to make its way back up somewhere to the mid 250s. For instance, if you take the Fibonacci, let's go for the 1 hour again. Take the Fibonacci, go from that recent swing high, and let's just assume this area was a swing low for now, just for, demonstrational purposes. I'll move back up to about 255, which is that 618 Fibonacci retracement is expected. And then we'll see how it reacts from there. And I probably would expect a rejection, make its way back up like this, probably expect a rejection, make its way back down. And ultimately, I expect consolidation, right? I expect consolidation pretty much the exact same way, like I said, on Monday, before this move even happened, back when we're still all the way up at 260, I expect consolidation pretty much almost identically to what we had back here in July of this year, right? When we had this massive move down, kind of like what we're doing right now. It's actually pretty insane how damn close it's playing out. Massive move up, pretty much a short squeeze. Now, granted, it wasn't a short squeeze here, but nonetheless, we had a pretty respective move up. Pretty much at the exact same level. Pretty much almost identical. And then we had a pretty decent aggressive fall to the downside. Pretty decent aggressive fall to the downside. And then we actually moved back up. And now I expect us to move back up. And then we move back down again, and then move slightly back down again. And then we kind of, just got tighter and tighter as this got tight, right? That's what I expect. So I expect us to pretty much start setting lower highs, higher lows. So in other words, move back up, set a higher, lower high. And then I expect us to reject, move back down, set a higher low. And then I expect us to get tighter and tighter and tighter and essentially create what could be a nice looking bull flag. Watch. This will happen. I promise you right now, if this plays out the way I think it is, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, you're going to see everyone posting, oh my God, guys, Tesla's in a bull flag. Look, guys, Tesla's in a bull flag. Watch, people are going to be doing that. I'm telling you right now. We're going to be posting higher, lower highs, higher lows. And that's just what's going to happen with the stock. It's going to consolidate. It's going to give us everyone a big ass question mark heading into 1010. And everyone's going to be wondering if it's a sell the news event or if it's going to be a buy the news event. So that's what I personally expect right now moving forward. In other words, an option seller's dream. By the end, that's just me kind of guessing, right? That's me just theorizing out loud. But what I want to see happen is this, and why I think this time could actually be different for Tesla. Back here when we were setting up that exact same scenario that I expect roughly to set up for the next week, let's say, it is technically a bull flag. Like this, you can easily have made an argument that this roughly was a bull flag. Obviously, bull flags have a higher chance than not to break, well, to the upside, right? And you break up to the upside. That's roughly how bull flags play out. It didn't. Obviously, it didn't because of earnings. That thing, it can happen. It's not guaranteed. But this time can actually be different. If we do actually set up a consolidation, if we do actually do this, and we start setting lower highs, higher lows in the next week, let's say, I do actually expect Tesla to break to the upside this time and actually go back to the upper channel. So for instance, it'll be something like this, move back up, get tighter, set up that bull flag, and then ultimately break up to the upside, back to the top of the channel, about to $280. And then I think we'll reject and make our way lower. But like I said many times, as long as Tesla breaks above 270 to 271 roughly, essentially breaking this high that we had back on July 24th roughly, and especially if we can close a daily candle above it, I do expect that at some point we will obviously fall out of this channel. But if it happens after breaking that high, I think the move down will be less severe, and I think Tesla actually will be having a bullish move down and a bullish quote unquote correction that I think will be arguably buyable, not financial advice, just my opinion. And, I think from there it'll head up even higher, right? That's a potential theory for now, at least, right? And then why am I bullish? Or why do I think this time could be different? Like, why this time? Like, why is this time different? Everyone says this time is different, but why is it actually different? I'm not just saying it for no reason. The reason I'm saying that is because this is the first time Tesla on the logarithmic chart on the weekly candles has officially closed a weekly candle above this trend line, right? It's never done it before. It's gotten rejected almost at every single time. And you can see back here, it got rejected many times. It actually went above it, but it never closed a weekly candle above it back here around pretty much July, really, until last week. And tomorrow is the final day of the week, so all eyes on this candle tomorrow. I do want to see it get a little bit of a bounce tomorrow. That's the ideal scenario. Move its way back up and make this a nice little area that shows that, yeah, you know what, it's probably turning it back into supports. And that's probably the main reason why I think this time could be different. That's one of the main reasons, right? Because we didn't have this situation happen before. We didn't have a weekly closure above like we did last week, for instance, and this overall setup that we're setting up right now. We didn't have this before. We didn't have this setup before, but now we do. And that's why I think this time could be different. And again, this is coming from someone that was bearish up here. I was bearish at 260. I kept saying we're coming back down to 240s at least, if not ideally to the 230s. And here we are. So now it's time to see if Tesla can actually follow through when it matters most. Because if there's a time for it to follow through, there's a time for it to really do what it needs to do, it is right now. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And don't forget, on the monthly chart, we're also having a bullish crossover on the monthly candle MACD. That doesn't happen very often. We finally got it, and we're making higher highs so far, at least so far. Even though we're heading lower so far in the month, we're still moving up on the MACD. That's a good sign. I like that, right? Stochastic looks great. RSI looks great. The true strength indicator looks great, and the bands look great. The monthly candles look great as long as we don't collapse back under 235. Because if we do, these things can look a little bit different, and the monthly candle can get ruined by the end of October. But as long as things play out the way I think they do, at least on the weekly chart and the daily chart, and we do play out the way I think we do, or at least I expect us to, I think Tesla will be setting up for what actually, unironically, could be a, well, this time is different scenario compared to back here. Just my opinion. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. But again, the risk here, the fact that, we are definitely getting some bearish momentum steeping in on my main indicators. So that's probably the biggest risk that can potentially push us out of this channel too early, which would be very bearish. So watch for that. But nonetheless, I'm feeling pretty decently optimistic around these levels personally. And I do expect to move back up to about 256, 255, probably sometime next week as we head closer to 1010. That's my overall analysis. These Tesla videos have been getting very long, but that's because we're in just, in my opinion, one of the most crucial moments for Tesla for as long as I can remember, because this can truly set the pace for Tesla for the next months. It depends on how the next few weeks go. So let's see. Hope you're ready for it, because we're entering very, very crucial moments here. So yeah, as usual, I'll be here to help you along the way. Again, but I want to make it clear, I will be wrong at times. I don't know if this is one of those times. Could be not. Who knows? Let's see. But I do feel like I'm right a lot more than I'm wrong, especially on Tesla. And that's what matters. So let's see if this time I'm right, or this time maybe I'm wrong and we do collapse. We'll see. But you all don't know the levels to look for. You know what to watch out for. And yeah, do with that information what you will, because I am not a financial advisor. Anyway, I'm blabbering on. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.